Hi Taylor, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. My name's Stephanie and I'll be your career counselor. Thanks so much for coming in and showing an interest in career
Yeah,
counseling.
yeah, of course.
I just want to go over about what we'll be doing in the next three sessions when we meet. So, this first one is just going to be getting to know about you. Tell me a little bit about your interests, your past experiences, any backgrounds of careers, and I just want to get to know you better as a person altogether. So, after this first session, I'm going to give you a little homework assignment. I'm going to give you assessments to take home that we'll look at next session and go over your results and see how you feel about them. If you see where you deem to be fitting to where you think who you think you are, and what your person and what you think your personality is, and we'll just see where it fits best career wise, based on your personality and your results on those assessments. So after that session, in the last session, we're going to go over all those possible career fields that came back the results of those assessments that I gave you. And we're just going to talk about all the aspects that go along with those potential careers for you, such as any education that you might need, the next steps for the career, what the careers entail, all of that good stuff. So, with that being said, do you have any questions about any of the sessions that we're going to be going through?
Huh? No, I think I'm ready to get started.
Okay, perfect. So, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I grew up in South Park, Pennsylvania. I went to high school there. And a little bit of background for, I guess, like career interests is we had a psychology course offered for our senior year. And once I took that, I just kind of immediately fell in love with it. I was already kind of interested in like just the idea of psychology. But after taking that course, I was like pretty much determined that I probably wanted to do something with that for a career in the future for my life. So that was kind of perfect timing because I was also applying to universities to go off to college. And I ended up applying to Slippery Rock University. And I applied as a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. And I was accepted. It was the summer before, and I think it was like around a month before. So this was like either like end of July or beginning of August. I just started to feel so scared about going into a Bachelor of Science program because it wasn't the Bachelor of Arts one that I signed up for. And I've always just been awful at science. I'm not really a math person either. So I think I just really psyched myself out. I just felt like I wouldn't be able to excel in it really. I was like scared the program would be too hard. So I ended up switching my major before I even got into the university to resort recreation and hospitality management. Basically, what that is it's like amusement parks, obviously fancy resorts, kind of tourism. And I've always also really had a strong interest in those type things. You know, I love to travel. I love amusement parks. I just love all the fun stuff in life, you know, vacations, all of it. So I was like, hey, this sounds great. You know, I can work in an environment that's fun, you know, and stimulating. I get to the program, and I'm actually in my second year now into that program. And I've just like kind of slowly started to realize that it's really heavy on the management side, which most people probably would have assumed. But I think I was just so caught up in the idea of working in a fun environment, I was forgetting that it's still management. And I don't think I really have the personality to manage other people. You know, I've never really been one to like to tell others what to do. It just really didn't entice me as much as psychology did. You know, I wanted to have like something that's fulfilling in life. And I started to realize that I probably wouldn't find fulfillment if I was just a manager. So I'm sure like many other people would, but for me personally, it wasn't really resonating with me. So That's where I'm kind of at right now, because, like I said, I'm in my second year, so I'm like halfway through what should be like college, like the typical 4 years. I've already put those 2 years into this tourism, hospitality management program, but I feel like I'm still really stuck with wanting to do something with psychology. I feel like I might have like made a mistake with choosing hospitality over psychology. And I kind of just am hoping to get some guidance from meeting with you to, make the right decision for me because, I don't want to end up in a field that I end up not liking, like 2 years into it. So that's basically the main reason I'm here. I just want to figure out which path to go down.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. So I could tell by just what everything you shared that you are showing interest in two separate things, psychology and the hospitality management. They both seem to have factors that really entice you and want you to go for that. And it's really good that you already started pointing out pros and cons between the two. um, that's really helpful. You're already starting to understand, like, for example, with the hospitality management, um, like you said, you may have been looking at more of just the fun aspects of it rather than the management side of it, which is fine. And now you're kind of considering going back to psychology or wanting to pursue or anything with psychology, which is great too. These assessments that I've talked about before that I will be giving to you at the end of this session, I think will be really beneficial and help you decide which way to go. It's going to dig into your personality and just go further in and see who you are as a person. And there might be some things that are surprising that might pop up that you may have never thought about, but might trigger you to want to try something new. So overall, it'll just help you career wise. So I'm going to stop. These assessments that I'm asking you to do will also reveal any careers that are based off of your personality. So I will send you those through email right now after I end this session. And then the next session, we'll just really dig into those results and see how you feel about everything. See if you think anything's surprising or if anything really sticks out to you. And we'll just go over all of that. And do you have any questions for me about what we'll be doing next session or the session after that?
No, I think I understand. I'm pretty excited to take these.
Okay, perfect. Well, I will see you next session and I will send those over to you right now.
All right, perfect. Sounds good. I'll see you then.
See ya, Taylor. Hi, Taylor. Welcome back. How are you doing?
Hi, Stephanie. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good too. So, at the end of our last session, I asked you to complete a couple of assessments. So, how'd that go for you? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so I really, really actually enjoyed the 16 personalities test because I had done one of those in the past before. It was kind of just more for like a for fun thing because they also have like aspects of relationships and like friend types and also like the work environment also. So me and my friends would kind of like take those and like compare each other. So I definitely really enjoyed that. And actually I got like the same personality type that I had like 2 years ago, which was pretty interesting. In the focus too, it was more like in depth, like strictly on careers. So that was interesting to look at also, but I definitely really enjoyed the 16 personalities assessment. I think it was fun.
That's great. That's so good to hear about all that. Especially what was interesting, you said you took the 16 personalities assessment before, just for
Mhm.
fun, like you said, comparing like with your friends. But you noticed that the results came back the same as they did previous whenever you took them, and that's really interesting. And that shows that your personality seems pretty strong and that you still have areas for growth, but you know who you are as a person. So that's awesome. So I have all of your results pulled up and we're just going to go over them and look at all of your own results that came about and then go more in depth with career options, all of that good stuff. So I am going to share my screen with you. And we're first going to go into the 16 personalities test. So let me make that bigger. Okay, can you see this?
Yep, I can.
Okay, perfect. All right, so at the beginning of your 16 personalities, your type was a turbulent mediator. Your code came out to be INFP-T. Your role was a diplomat, which we will go into more with the role and your type a little bit later. And then your strategy is constant improvement, which is good. All of this stuff is good. Nothing is bad when it comes to personality types and traits and stuff like that. So we're gonna go down here. We're first gonna look at your mind. So the mind, your results came back 72% introverted and 28% extroverted. So it is kind of big difference between introverted and extroverted. But with you being more introverted, it just it means that you're sensitive to external stimulation, you're more shy, like to keep to yourself, just being not in a sense alone, but you prefer that over a social interaction, I'd say. But, how do you feel about that? Would you consider yourself more introverted?
Yeah, I've definitely always considered myself an introvert. Like even throughout grade school and middle school, I was always not like the quiet kid, but I was pretty shy and reserved. With my friends, though, I would always like bring out that more energetic side of me. So I guess that's honestly pretty accurate. I'm a bit shocked at how high of a percentage I was with introverted, but like at the same time, I'm not surprised. Like I love social interactions, but at the same time, I really like value that alone time with myself. Like I don't feel like, oh, I need to be constantly like stimulated around other people. I can really just like appreciate that alone time. But I also still like, I can still have like good interactions in a social situation, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm a bit shocked at how high it is, but I definitely agree that I'm an introvert for sure.
that's great. Yeah, that's all like everything that you just said. You're a little surprised that it's that high, but it's not a bad thing that it's that high. So let's move on down here to the energy aspect. So you are more intuitive than observant. This one is kind of an even split, which was interesting. So being intuitive, you're just very imaginative, you're open-minded, curious. You prefer novelty over stability and focus on hidden meanings and your future possibilities. Since this is such an even split, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that?
I think I'm definitely an open-minded and curious person. Novelty over stability and focus on hidden meanings. That's definitely like something that I relate to. I'm always kind of like looking for like the deeper meanings and things and future possibilities. So I would say like the even split is pretty good because sometimes I feel like my imagination could be like better. So I think it's probably like a good even split then that would describe me pretty well.
That's great. That's good to hear that you think that it's good that it's an even split. So, nature, you have feeling taking over more than thinking at 66%. So, with being the feeling type, you're sensitive, emotionally expressive, you're very empathetic, you're not so competitive, or you're less competitive than the thinking types, and you focus more on cooperation with others and your own self or your social harmony with others. Do you think you're more feeling rather than thinking?
Yeah, I would definitely say I'm more feeling like I personally I think of myself as like an empathetic person. I always try to put myself in other people's shoes whenever I'm presented with like certain issues or problems.
Mhm.
And for like the competitive part, I don't have a competitive bone in my body. Like I do things for fun, cooperation, and like social harmony, like it lists there. So if I'm like, for instance, if I'm like family game night, I'm not like, oh, like I better win, like trying to like cheat my way through it, you know, like I don't care about like the winning aspect, the competitive part. It's all just about like cooperation and having fun. And honestly, like that probably applies to like so many other aspects also. So yeah, I feel like I'm definitely I would say sensitive also and emotionally expressive too. So I relate to that.
That's awesome, especially how you said, like, for example, with your family game nights, it's more about the cooperation and having fun than
Mhm.
having that like entice to win. So that's awesome. And the being more feeling definitely comes out in those aspects. And it can come out in like your career wise too, with your jobs and anything that you would go into in your future. Okay, so moving down to tactics, you came back 64% prospecting, which was a significant difference between judging. Being prospecting, it just means that you're good at improvising and spotting opportunities. You're flexible, a relaxed nonconformist. You prefer to keep your options open. And then going down to identity, you were 74% turbulent, which is also a very significant difference against assertive, which was only 26%. But being turbulent means that you're very self conscious and you're sensitive to stress.
Mhm.
You're likely to experience a wide range of emotions, be success driven, a perfectionist, and just eager to improve altogether. So, between the two that we just said of the tactics and identity, would you say, because those two were pretty significant differences, would you relate to each of those more that with how your results came back?
So with the prospecting, it says like flexible, relaxed, nonconformist. I feel like that describes me pretty well. Just because I feel like if that's like talking in aspects of like planning and like it said for opportunities, I'm always like very flexible. My options are always open. I'm never really like I don't really have like tunnel vision when it comes to things. So I just kind of like go with the flow. Again, that's like the flexible part. And that's for just like planning anything. I'll improvise plans. Like I'm very like relaxed with keeping options open. And for the turbulent, I didn't really know what that term meant, but now that I'm reading it, it's like I feel like I'm getting called out because it says self-conscious, sensitive to stress. Like yes, both of those are definitely yes, and likely to experience a wide range of emotions. Like yeah, but my success driven is true, but it is because of the perfectionist in me. Like whenever I'm wanting to complete something, I'm always like wanting it to be the best. I want to work the best to my ability. And I feel like that like definitely plays into like sensitive distress because I'm worried about perfecting everything and being self-conscious because I want it to be perfect. And like I feel like that definitely drives like my success, and my emotions are like deeply involved with that then because I'm self-conscious and sensitive to stress, that obviously plays a lot of emotions into what I'm doing. And of course, I'm eager to improve. Definitely, I would say just playing off of that perfectionist like type of mentality.
Yeah, everything that you just stated, I can see why there's such a significant difference between the turbulent and assertive personalities. But it's not a bad thing that you're turbulent with the aspect of being sensitive to stress. Don't take that as like a weakness or not even a weakness, just a overall bad meeting. It That's okay that you're like you said with being a perfectionist and so success driven. Of course you're going to be stressed out. Of course that stress is going to arise somewhere. So that's perfectly fine. And then with the aspects of you being that perfectionist and that being eager to improve, that is so good, and it really shows a lot about your personality as a whole. So I'm glad that you can relate to all of your results that came back with your higher scores. So next, we're going to go into your type, which was the turbulent mediator. Okay. So this is just a little intro about what it is, what that means. So although you seem quiet or unassuming, mediators have vibrant, passionate inner lives. So they're creative, imaginative, they happily lose themselves in daydreams, inventing all sorts of stories and conversations in their minds. So these personalities are known for their sensitivity. Their emotional response to music, art, nature, and the people around them is pretty profound. Um, Being a mediator, you're also idealistic and empathetic. So you long for deep, soulful relationships that can be filled and called to help for others. But because this personality type makes up such a small portion of this population, mediators can often feel lonely or invisible to the outside world since a lot of other people have different personality types and mediators just often don't come up that much. But that's perfectly fine. Doesn't mean that you're in a bad place at all. You don't seem to appreciate the traits that make you unique since you're not one of the ones that are most common. So let's go down to a little more and just talk about the empathetic side of being a mediator. Um, so you're introspective to the core. You're attuned to your own thoughts and feelings, but they yearn to understand that people around them as well, all of those people around them, thoughts and feelings. You're compassionate, non-judgmental, always willing to hear another person's story. This aspect of it really, I feel resonates with you because you had an interest of showing in psychology and wanting to do that before you switched over to your was it
It was resort
resort
hospitality management. It was a
hospitality?
really long
Well,
name,
long
but yeah.
name, that's why I was tripping up on it,
No,
but
you're
yes,
fine.
that's what it was, resort
Yeah.
hospitality. But yeah, you show those interests that come in that, and even when you're in the hospitality too, you still have to be compassionate and non-judgmental with all those people that you deal with. So having those 2 traits work really well in both of the fields that you were, considering. So we're gonna go down a little bit more to the in search of a calling aspect of it. So people with your personality type of a mediator, you often feel directionless or stuck until they connect with a sense of purpose in your life. Now, with that being said, do you feel like that's where you are where you are right now? Like a sense
Um,
of being stuck or you need to connect with something to move on with your career decision?
Honestly, yes, because like how I told you, it's kind of like I'm at a standstill right now with like choosing my major or what I want to continue with because I just started kind of like thinking a bit and reflecting how much purpose, a career in hospitality management would give me.
Mhm.
So that definitely would have played out into me feeling directionless and stuck further in life, especially since it already was like my sophomore year in undergrad. So I think that definitely like resonates with me.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. And then just in this last little section, how we just talked about having being that feeling of just being stuck and needing a purpose in our lives. So this last section just says, I really like this. It says, fortunately, like flowers in the spring, mediators, creativity, and idealism can bloom even after the darkest of seasons. So you may feel stuck right now, and you may feel that you need that sense of purpose in your life and to continue on deciding what you want to do, either psychology or hospitality management. But like that saying says, you bloom even after the darkest of seasons. So everything will work out. And that's why we're here today to try to just see the differences, talk about your personality, where you fit better, and all good things like that. So we are going to move on to your strengths and weaknesses. Now, before I start with the strengths and weaknesses, I do want to say that weaknesses, I know it kind of gives off like a bad meaning, but it's not. It is just things that are about you that you may even consider that are weak yourself and things that can always be improved and just built up better through your growth as a person. First, we're going to go over your strengths as a mediator. So you're very empathetic, you're generous, open-minded, creative, passionate, and idealistic. These are all such good strengths to have, even if you decide to go the route of psych or the route of hospitality management. All, I think one, two, three, four, six, all 6 of these are perfect for either of those fields and aspects that you will need to grow within those fields too. So being empathetic and generous and open-minded, I feel like really fits in with your psychology aspect of your life. Being in that field, you have to be empathetic towards all your clients, of course, generous, make sure everyone's okay, and open minded because a lot of people that you might be seeing don't have the same thinking process as you. There might be some biases, but being open minded really just takes all of that away because you're able to see someone's different side, someone's different opinions. So that's really good to have. So, with those three right there, would you say you consider yourself being those traits?
Yes. So I definitely feel that I would be an empathetic person, just like how I said before, with my friends. I'm always empathetic to hear out their needs because they all just come from like different backgrounds. So they may have a certain experience that I haven't experienced myself before, but I still try to put myself in their position just to like have like lend a helping hand, listen to them. And I feel like empathy definitely is probably a quality that I have then if I'm able to just like kind of put my own like biases aside and just really like get in tune with their emotions. um and for generosity, I feel like I'm pretty generous with people that I'm very close to. Because I am like introverted still, it's not like I'm just gonna be very generous with everyone. So people that are like very close to me in my life, I always like try to give back to them. It says give credit when it's due, uplift the people around me. I want to share things with people because I feel more connected with people if we're sharing. I feel that very deeply. And as for open mindedness, especially since I've gone to college, just like the courses I've taken, they've really opened my eyes. And I feel like I myself have really grown to be open minded because there's like so many different like cultures in the world and things like that. I just feel like it's like a whole new world once you just stay open minded and put aside your own like beliefs and ideas just to hear someone else. Like that's just exciting in its own, So I really value being open minded. I feel like that can like get any person far. So I would say that that definitely describes me also.
Good. That's great to hear that you think that these all resonate with you and who you are as a person. And like I said, they're all good aspects to have. So, going down a little more to the next three, you're also creative, passionate, and idealistic. Um, so, being idealistic, I wanted to touch on a little bit more. So, you strive to follow your conscience, even when doing the right thing isn't easy or convenient. They rarely lose sight of their desire to live a meaningful, purpose filled life, one that helps others and leaves the world a better place. So, I feel like this strength of yours goes a little bit with your hospitality management side, being idealistic, because you have to be that within that field. And you stated within our first session that you kind of wanted to go into that field for more the fun traits of it, like going to amusement parks and all of that good stuff. So the purpose filled part of being idealistic, I feel like that may have where it came up with going choosing hospitality management and being passionate and creative. I mean, when you're in that field too, you have to be passionate about whatever you're doing with the management. You have to be creative to pick these places to go for whatever it is that you're doing within that field at that moment. But with being good for hospitality management, these are also good to have in the psych field as well. But would you consider yourself as creative, passionate, and idealistic, and think that that would fit well into your if you would want to go into hospitality management?
I think for creativity, I mean, I would say that I was definitely a creative child. I mean, I was always like writing like little short stories, daydreaming, like just walking around, daydreaming. And I'm not sure how well that would play into like a management position because I mean, it definitely can play into it, but I'm just not sure, I guess. I don't know how much creativity like a management position could allow. But it's not like I'm like as creative now as I was like as a child though, as I'm sure many people might feel. But
Right.
for passionate, I definitely like any job I even have, even if it's like been a job that I did not really care for, I always like put my whole heart into it. So it doesn't like, I guess like it says, it doesn't diminish my strong feelings for that cause. Um and that just kind of like speaks to my belief, like whatever I do, I try to be passionate about it and like put my full effort into it. And for idealistic, um let me see. I would say with the part it says desire to live like a meaningful life, purpose filled life, I would say like that might play more into like my desire to go into psychology, because it says like one that helps others and leaves the world a better place. Because I just, even though like I could still do that with hospitality management, I'm just kind of like stuck because I might be able to get more from that as like a counselor,
Mhm.
like helping others and leaving the world a better place. So I'm not sure, that one might play more to like my psychology side.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, all of these could fit into either of the fields of your choosing right now. But I like how I started off saying that idealistic could fit into more of your side of being with hospitality management, but you think it might be more for psychology. And honestly, looking back over it and hearing you say that, that's perfect because you're right. There is a need to help others and leave the world a better place. And that is a lot to do with psychology. And you feel that need that's something that you should be doing. So that's great. So we're going to go down next to your weaknesses. And like I said before, this is in no way anything bad about your personality. So we have unrealistic, self isolating, unfocused, emotionally vulnerable, desperate to please, and self critical. Now, these sound pretty harsh, but they don't necessarily mean that they are. Like some of the more harsher ones, self isolating, desperate to please, self critical. That can kind of hit hard, but and kind of live for make you live like kind of a negative lifestyle, but it doesn't always necessarily mean like you have to do that. So how do you feel? So we'll break it up. So how do you feel about being unrealistic, self-isolating, and unfocused? Would you say that you think you are any of those? Like, would you say those are your weaknesses?
Uh, so like a few of them I can definitely see being true to me, like the unrealistic,
Hmm.
because like it says, hopeless romantic, rose-colored vision of what my life should be. I like pretty much set myself up for disappointment with like my idealized versions of what my life should be. And it says when reality inevitably falls short of their dreams. Like, yeah, I can see that being very true. Like I feel like there's a lot of things that can be disappointing just because I have like such high hopes, perfectionist, you know. Self-isolating, that is like very, very true. I long to connect with others. And sometimes I just feel like I don't know how to, like, especially in a new environment. I'm definitely always so hesitant to like put myself out there and make new friends and be involved. Like, that's just been a thing that's carried with me since like childhood. And I've definitely gotten better with it, like especially throughout undergrad, I've gotten better, but like I still feel like that like hesitation and that kind of lonely, isolated feeling. Like even if I'm like with a bunch of people, because I long like for such like a deep connection, I can still feel like isolated and alone. And yeah, that's definitely one that like really speaks to how I've been in the past and like in the present a bit. Um,
Yeah, that all sounds just good that it's resonating with who you are as a person and how you feel now.
mhm.
Um, with that all being said, we have emotionally vulnerable, desperate to please, and self-critical. So self-critical is the one that kind of steps out to me with being a weakness. So they just people who are mediators like you believe in their unique potential and they desperately want to live up to it. And they can have unrealistic expectations for themselves and fail to live up to those visions that they have and honestly accuse themselves of being useless or selfish. Where you are right now, being stuck between continuing on with hospitality management or switching back to psychology, would you say you're being critical on yourself?
Um, I would think so because I'm being critical on myself in a way that like I'm not letting myself follow my dreams. I'm being like very, I don't know what the word is. I feel like I almost feel like I would be selfish to like switch my
Mhm.
major, 2 years into it because um I worked so hard already for it. So like that would be like selfish of me to like take that all away. But maybe it wouldn't be selfish, but I'm just like very self-critical of myself for like
Mhm.
if I like make the wrong decision. So um it's definitely it can be like discouraging. And I think that's what makes like the decision making process so much harder because I am so critical of whichever decision I make.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that. But like I said, these weaknesses aren't bad. But would you say that you do have these weaknesses?
Yeah, I would definitely say some more than others.
Mhm.
I definitely relate to, but I definitely have all of them to like an extent. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's good. That's good. Like with every strength, we all have our weaknesses too, and no way is that bad. It's just stuff that we can look at and then build up. Like for example, the self-critical aspect. You feel like you are criticizing yourself a little bit too much, but something we can work on and that you can ease up on, and that might lead a better road to your future. So next, for the 16 personalities, we're just going to go over some career paths for you. Um, so just like a basic introduction of the career paths, mediators long for a career that doesn't just take care of the bills, but also feels fulfilling, which sounds like with you saying that you're looking for something like that's why you're stuck right now. You're looking for something that's going to give you that sense of fulfillment and also be enjoyable. Like it's not just all about the bills for you. You want to go into something that you're going to enjoy. Okay, so you might struggle to find a profession that meets your practical needs and fulfill your dreams. There it is
yeah,
again.
there.
We're having that trouble right now, but it's okay. We're gonna work through it. But you may drift in frustration, waiting for the perfect job to present itself to you, and eventually just feel stuck or worried that they're not living up to your potential. And that feeling of feeling stuck, like we talked about earlier with your weaknesses, not a bad thing, but it is it can feel a little it could feel bad having those feelings and not sure where to go from that. But so far the 16 personality results have shown a lot about your personality, how they will affect your ability within those fields of either psychology or hospitality management.
Mhm.
A place down here I want to just highlight over is about finding your way. So one of the biggest things about being a mediator, your personality type, is you are adaptable. They You work in high stress situations, although we have talked about before that yes, you are prone to stress, but that's fine. You're that might even make it better to work in those high stress situations from dealing with all of the stressful things you have in the past. You let or stressful environments or hectic environments as well. You can become frustrated by workplaces that are highly critical or competitive, which is huge. Like you said earlier, you are not a competitive person whatsoever. So, working in that kind of environment just would not seem or deem to be a good fit for you. So with all that being said, mediators don't need ideal conditions to thrive professionally. They want to live in tune with their values and their careers as much as any other aspect of their life. And I think that's exactly what we're trying to figure out here. You're trying to tune in with all of your own values, trying to see where your values lie, if they fit more into your psychology interest or if they fit more into your hospitality interest. But so far, everything looks good with your personality. Do you have any questions of anything we went over with this assessment or any thoughts?
Um, I was just curious if you scroll down just a
Mhm.
bit, there was this one part. Wait,
Is it
I
in the
think
chat?
it listed, yeah, like here for the careers. So like, okay, so it says people with my personality type, like counseling, psychology, teaching,
Mhm.
healthcare. Like, I feel like that's kind of like a given with exactly like what it was saying about me, with like the empathetic traits. So that's kind of like reassuring to see that.
Definitely. I'm really glad you pointed that little highlight out of this. Yeah, so it says its focuses on the services such as counseling, psychology, teaching, healthcare, everything like social work, anything along those lines. And you have all of those traits that would fit so well in there. So to hear you say that it sounds reassuring, that's really good for you to see
Mhm.
that and point that out.
Definitely.
Okay, so I am going to stop sharing for a second. And we're going to move on to the next assessment that I asked you to do. Okay, let me make this bigger. Can you see this?
Yep, I can.
Over a little bit. Okay. All right. So this is a focus two assessment. There was a few parts of this that I asked you to complete, which you did very well, and your results came back great. So this is the my career planning involvement. This was based off of Donald Super's theory, and so Super's just as to highlight over it real quick. It happened. So he says that work happens in stages of your life. It is an ongoing event that happens from the beginning all the way up until the end. It is always a constant process that you're going through. So if you have changes within your work field or within your career, perfectly fine. That's why it's an ongoing event. You're learning, you're growing, everything. Okay, so with this assessment, there was three different parts within the first part. You had a self-assessment, a career exploration, and career planning satisfaction. So going over the first one of self-assessment, you scored a medium, and that just indicates that you are moderately involved in examining your interest, your values, your personalities, and skills, which after we've been talking seems like that, yeah, you are at a medium with all of that. With career exploration, it is the same deal. You are also scored a medium on that. And so that just means that you're moderately involved in your career exploration. So it's important that you continue to increase your involvement within your career exploration, and it'll help you narrow down your options and map out your career goals, which way to go, whether it be psychology or hospitality management. And then when we move on to the career planning, that was also a medium score. So we see a consistent result of medium within everything that you're doing, and not bad at all. It just means that you're right in the middle of everything that you're supposed to that's going on. So with scoring the medium score with career planning satisfaction, it just suggests that you may be experiencing some problem with your career planning, which you are, and that's why we're here. So if you're not able to resolve the problems or concern on your own, should discuss them with me, and like that's what we're doing. So that was scoring medium on that is absolutely perfect because that is what we're doing. That's why we're here today, and we're just going through it, like going through all of your personality aspects, everything about that. And I think we're starting to get a good guideline of which way you want to go based on your own interests, your skills, personality, everything like that. So I just want to highlight over here real quick under your academic strengths. You listed a few that you did really well in, and then a few that you don't do well in at all. So the few that you said that you did really well in are social sciences, such as psychology, and then other little ones like English, foreign languages. So why would you consider that you do very well, or why you marked it as that, like for psychology?
So for psychology, I had that one course in high school, and I think I got like an A, maybe like a 96, 98 in that class. Like it was like a high A. And I just was like, the fact that I was like really interested in what the material was, and like I was actually looking forward to class instead of like, oh, I have class. I feel like that kind of just like that's kind of why I placed it at the I do very well, because it's actually like something that I genuinely showed interest in. And for like foreign languages and English and language arts, like I took a Spanish like 4 years throughout high school, and I was always like high grades, like high A's all throughout Spanish. And then English and language arts, like I guess that's like the same thing pretty much. I've always been good with like literature, and that's also why I placed like what did I place? Oh, like technology. Oh, I never even took those subjects, but physical sciences, chemistry, geology, physics. Like I didn't really do well in those. Like I didn't care for them. So I just kind of placed them down there, because even if I got like a decent grade, it was always like a struggle for me still. And I feel like those like three subjects I placed at the top, I was like confident in.
Yeah, it's great that you can point out just by looking at like these different classes and relating them back to what you've taken and how you can point out that you loved going to psychology. That was one of the only classes that you actually felt interested in and that you didn't mind going to. And then like not so like the other ones that you didn't do well in, such as like physical sciences, like chemistry or anything like that. Not necessarily like you said you did bad in them. It was just stuff that's not based who you are and what you like. So that really shows who your personality is just by looking at some academic strengths.
Mhm.
So moving on to am I career ready? Sorry, I got my treasure real quick. Um, so there was a bunch of different sections for career ready, such as critical thinking, communication, teamwork, leadership, a bunch of that. And I'm not going to read everything to you with these results, but you seem either moderately developed or highly developed within all of these. And one of them that actually really sticks out to me is being very highly developed in equity and inclusion. So, what this means, it's just that you're able to talk with people who may not necessarily agree with you or understand your own perspective. And you can attend events with people who have different politics, religion, race, ethnicities, all of that. And that is something very well to have with any career that you decide to go into. So, looking at all of these, am I career ready statements, which one do you think is the best that goes along with you, who you are as a person and your personality?
Um, I would say like the single best or like top two.
Go ahead and pick top two because these are all very important to have, but just based on who you are and where you are right now, just what you think is best for you.
I would say professionalism or like equity and inclusion,
Nice.
probably.
Yeah, and you are either very highly developed or highly developed in both of those. Professionalism is also something very important to have within your personality. So you can reflect on how you have handled different conflicts at work or at school in your personal life and how you could have acted more professionally. And then once you figure, like if you go through any of those experiences, it'll only help you for future experiences and how you do, how you can control the situation, anything like that.
Mhm.
That's all really good aspects to have about yourself, and it's very good that you, scored highly moderate or moderately developed on all of those as well. I am going to stop sharing on this part of it, and now I'm gonna share my screen again. We are going to go into the next part of that Focus 2 assessment. Ok oh, wrong one, I'm so sorry.
You're okay.
Here it is. Alright, can you see this?
Yes, I can.
Alright, so this part is your work interest. This goes this the work interest is based on John Holland's theory. And if you're not familiar with John Holland or anything about him, he based his work and personality fit with environment. And So, whatever your personality entails, you would work best in that same environment. So, we're just going to go over this a little bit. We're going to begin with your work interest assessment. So, the three top aspects that came back for work interest are social, investigative, and artistic. So, being social, the number one thing listed here is it's considered being the helpers. You prefer to work with others with the team and approach to problem solving. You enjoy teaching, caring for others, volunteering, mediating disputes, meeting new people, and just being cooperative, friendly, and understanding as a whole. Being investigated, you have a strong desire to understand cause and effect and solve puzzles and problems within daily life. You often work in jobs that are scientific in nature. Their work often involves the analysis of data using formulas, graphs, and numbers, and you prefer to work independently with minimal supervision. And then the last one that you were came back as was artistic, also known as the creators. This just you would prefer to be expressive and like the opportunity to create new things and be innovative. You typically do not like structure or conformity, and you enjoy activities such as writing, poetry, photography, singing, acting, dancing, all of that stuff that relates along there. So, with these three being the main results that came back to you for you, do you think one is higher than the other with your personality, or do you think some not fit at all? What tell me your thoughts.
I would say the social, like caring for others, mediating disputes, meeting new people and working in groups. It's like I feel like I'm always like 50-50 with that just because like I am so introverted, even though I really do love like being in groups.
Mhm.
And then also it says like highly verbal. It's like I am a social type. I love to be around people, but I'm not super verbal with it. You know, like I'm usually more like reserved into myself, unless if it's like with a group of friends or anything. So it's kind of like 50-50 with that one, but I definitely really, you know, I definitely do have those qualities, just not insanely strong, I guess. Um, for investigative, I definitely like to work independently with minimal supervision. That's like true to an extent. I still like to have like some type of structure, I guess, like supervision maybe, but I'm definitely like, I love to work independently also. Um, and but I'm not like scientific in nature because, like I said, like I didn't really care for like chemistry. Biology was okay, but like physics, like I'm not really that scientific. I'm more like the artistic, maybe. So I'm not like that's the thing. I used to sing, I used to dance, I used to act. So I do feel like that I do have those artistic parts in me. I just never really like followed through with them. I don't know like what exactly happened, but I definitely like was very artistic as a kid, wanting to sing all the time. I was just dancing everywhere. Um, so I was expressive with that, I would say, and innovative. And my imagination, like I said, it was definitely like I had an imagination, like not like I don't have one now, but like it was much stronger whenever I was younger. But now I'm just kind of more like laid back, I guess, because I never really like followed up with my artistic side. So I think like I think it's like a good blend for me, probably all of them.
That's great. And even like you said, how you used to be much more creative than you are now, but it still showed up in your results. So maybe you do still have those little aspects of creativity or having an artistic side within you that you didn't even realize that you still
Mhm.
carried with you. So it's very interesting that that popped up. And then also the social aspect of it. That's the one that you said was like a 50-50 for you. That's great. And even the investigative being the thinker, something that you really didn't resonate with that much, but it's still good that all of these are listed. These are all still part your personality and all of your work interests and what you would like to do within the field. So that's very interesting that that all came up. We are going to move down to the values assessment. So, with your values, the top three that you chose were helping others, your independence, and your stability. Can you just tell me a little bit why you chose those three?
So I definitely really value helping others. I want to like stay involved and helping people, especially like individuals. Like whenever I imagined like what I could do in counseling, like being able to help either an individual person or a group like that.
Mhm.
That's just something that I really hold a strong value to. I feel like that would make me feel more fulfilled as a person. So I think that's why I listed that for a value. And my independence, um, yeah, since I'm like introverted, I definitely can thrive still while like working independently or alone. So I definitely appreciate my independence that I have. And it's something that I definitely, um, I guess I appreciate independence, I guess. Even though I can definitely work with groups of people. It's just kind of like that's definitely something that I just really appreciate. And then stability. Yeah, so stability, I would say like definitely feeling stable with a career, like it says. Um, like if I think of being a counselor, or I guess even in management too, like it could apply for stability also there too. Um, they're all kind of like I would have my own set daily tasks. It's not like I go into work and I'm like, oh well, what's gonna happen today? I mean, every job has that to a certain extent, but I guess I definitely like my jobs where it's like if I'm coming into work, I know what to expect. So I feel like that's kind of like where the stability might have came in.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's
Yeah.
where it comes in as well for you. And having these values is so good to have within any career, any occupation. Helping others, especially if when you lean more towards the psychology aspect, that's huge in the field of counseling, psychology, anything. Wanting to be there to help others other than someone than yourself, that's a huge value to have, and it's great that you do. And even having the stability, just to not have that predict or how should I say this? Just having the stability to know what's going to happen and not just like you said, yeah, jobs you walk in, you don't know what's going to happen today. It's common, but just having that stability anyway, whether you're in management or whether you're in psychology, it's just so good, such a good value to have because you know what you want it to be stable. All right, so moving down a little bit, we are going to go into your personality assessment. So, your personality type, like I said before, would fit best into an environment that corresponds with that. So, you are orderly, you pay close attention to the facts and like to be clear and understanding of the objectives of a project. You care about the well being of other people and are tactful, sympathetic, and aim to provide practical help. You prefer to collect the facts and information necessary before making a decision, which is also part of that stability value that you had. You like accuracy and clearly stated information, and you are committed to meeting your obligations and taking responsibility for them. So, within your personality type, next would be when you're choosing your career. So, people with your personality type are attracted to occupations where you can combine your abilities to make careful observations and use the facts accurately to provide you and other people around you. So, examples of occupations could be in the field such as healthcare services, which we've talked about, teaching, human resource management, that management aspect, community services, counseling, and selected areas of businesses. So, comparing your personality type with those few careers that I just listed, can you see yourself going into any of those and being like okay, satisfied, self fulfilled?
Yeah, definitely. I think like the health services, even though I'm not like necessarily interested in that, it would still like provide that fulfilling aspect.
Yeah.
And same with teaching, because even for a bit, I was like, oh, that'd be maybe a bit cool to be a psychology teacher. But I think like my introverted side of like teaching in front of a bunch of kids every day was like, maybe that might drain my energy with how many people I'd be interacting with in a day. Um, but yeah, like human resources management, like I guess it still has that management factor, even though I'm like iffy if I could be a manager type of person. It's still human resources. So like that would still probably like provide a fulfilling aspect. And of course, like community services, counseling, and then selected areas of business, which is
Mhm.
that's fine. Like definitely the counseling though, like it makes me happy to see that there. Definitely because
Does it
I was
also,
getting
make you happy to see that some cohort of or some sort of human resources management appear too?
a bit, but definitely like not as much. Like
Okay.
it's nice to see that it's like they put me as human resources management, but it's definitely not like it's not pulling me as much as the counseling, like being able like not doing like an administrative side, actually working with the individual, I guess.
Great. Yeah, that's great. To hear you say that and point that out, specifically that you're maybe falling more towards the counseling aspect of it and that work environment and how your personality fits with that. So, moving on to your skills assessment and your leisure interest assessment. So within your skills assessment, there were three skills that were identified for you, and that is listening, reasoning, and social perspectiveness. So you're a good listener. You like to take time and into actually listening and understanding what others are saying to you and the points that are being made. Within reasoning, you use your logic to identify strengths and weaknesses of alternative solutions that may not have been brought up or even thought about. And you like to have that for the approaches to your problems. And then with your social perspectiveness, you're aware of the reaction of others and understanding why they react they do. And these three skills, like you said how you were leaning more or seeing counseling is reassuring to you, these are great in counseling, especially listening and social perspectiveness. You're going to have a range of clients and with different issues and different problems. So just listening and understanding what they're saying and be aware of their reactions of the stuff that they're talking to you about. It's a huge aspect of the whole counseling process and even reasoning too, identifying strengths and weaknesses with your clients, all that good stuff. So then with your leisure interest assessment, you came back as inquiring, aesthetic, and correct. And then with inquiring, this is considered again as the thinkers, aesthetic is the creators, and correct is the organizers. So the one that showed the most, or I'm sorry, no, I didn't mean to say that. With inquiring, the thinkers. So you like to be involved in activities that have to do with ideas and thinking. You like to observe and learn and investigate to be able to solve problems. You prefer working with ideas rather than the people or the things about them. And you're often described as being an analytical, curious, cautious, independent, intellectual, and so on. So, with the aesthetic, the creators portion of the leisure interest, let me move this over real quick. Um, Sorry, my little pull down bar is up and I couldn't see what it said.
You're okay.
All right, you tend to be creative and intuitive. You enjoy activities in writing, such as or activities such as writing, painting, sculpturing. This goes back to a little before, like you said, you used to have these interests and stuff, kind of grew out of them, which is fine. But within the same aesthetic category, you're often described as being open, imaginative, original, emotional, independent, idealistic, which is all important values to have within counseling or even management as well. And then the last part is the correct, also known as the organizers. So you like to be involved in activities that follow set procedures and routines. You like to work with data and details, and often described in being conforming, practical, careful, and persistent. That's usually what that entails. Um, can you still see my screen?
I can still see your screen, yeah.
Okay, mine just kind of went off. I don't know how to get back here. Okay, I had to stop share. I didn't know what was going on.
Oh no, you're fine. Yeah, I
Okay,
can
but
see you just
anyway, that was the end to that assessment anyway, so that kind of worked out good. Actually, I'm just gonna pull that back up real quick just to see what you think. Okay, yeah. So within these last few aspects that we just talked about at the end, your skills assessment or your leisure interest assessment, Do you well, first with skills assessment, do you think listening, reasoning, and social, perspectiveness is skills that you do have?
Yeah, I would definitely say my listening. I definitely listen very well to whenever people are talking to me because sometimes if people are coming to me with problems, like any close friends, I'm always listening to them to the best of my ability.
Great.
And I like just try to understand fully what they're trying to say to me. The reasoning, yeah, like I'm confused by that one because from the 16 personalities, it said I'm more feeling than thinking. So
Mhm.
I was a bit like thrown off whenever I got the reasoning here because it says I use logic to identify like strengths and weaknesses for solutions. And then like the 16 personality ones, it was more like feelings.
Mhm.
So I'm not quite sure how to feel about that one.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that you got, like, 2 different results. It might just mean that you have both of those aspects within your personality, like, you within your 16 personalities, feeling was a huge significant difference, but you still can have those reasoning and thinking aspects that go along with it as well. So, it's not necessarily, like, a bad thing that I said, you just might be open your personality might be open to be considered as both.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yeah. And like the social perceptiveness, I feel like I'm definitely like aware of my surroundings and aware of like the reactions of other people. I always like kind of try to pay attention to like if someone's mood has changed, you know, if they like change like a certain expression on their face, I'm usually like understanding to why they've reacted that way. And I usually just pay attention to that. And with like the leisure interest assessment, they all definitely like describe me to an extent. And I'm wondering if like the aesthetic one is like maybe maybe it's like kind of like a calling for me to like get back in touch with my creative side because I've seen that like almost like what 2 times now where like it was like artistic and like so yeah, I think that's like an insight to like how you said those parts of me like might still be there.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said that before, I still think that now, since they're popping up so often in your results too, it might be something that you might look back into getting just for fun. Like it doesn't even have to be career wise, but it's still a huge part of your personality and things that you like to do. So absolutely getting back into that would maybe even benefit your future career wise as well, deciding if you might want to go into something like that, or it might even be beneficial within the field that you choose, such as counseling or hospitality management. Being artistic within those fields aren't harmful. It'll only benefit who you are as a counselor or as a manager. So it's really good to have. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing this one and I am going to share one more screen with you. Hmm. Wrong one again. Sorry about that.
No, you're okay.
Hey, super sorry about that. Just some technical difficulties. So,
Okay.
this last one that I'm pulling up. So these are all, this was also a part of your Focus 2 assessment, and these are possible occupations and careers that came up due to your results. So the two occupations that appeared in all four of the assessments that you have completed were counseling psychologist and curriculum and assessment director. Now, seeing counseling psychologist is no surprise at all. You've mentioned that a few times, and you've shown much interest in it. And but curriculum and assessment director kind of a surprise, kind of not, because it still kind of falls under the management aspect, but it's different. It's different than a management position. So with just seeing these two occupations appear from your results, what do you think? Any thoughts, feelings?
Well, it's definitely reassuring to see the counseling psychologist
Mhm.
for one of like the top careers. And yeah, I really don't even know what all entails with the curriculum and assessment director. Like, I'd never even heard of that.
So
So I'm
I
not
feel
really.
like it is just, well, not just, it's someone who goes over all of the curriculum. Like, so for example, in a school setting, they would go over the curriculum and all the assessments before the teachers start doing
Oh,
it.
okay.
So you would be a director in that sense of directing which way the classroom goes or in any field with it. So, like, for example, if
Okay.
it was in food or business with food or something like that, it's all directing before the events or anything happens.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really like call to me or
Yeah.
anything, but I can see like how that might have ended up there.
Yeah, no problem. I can see how it ended up too. Just going down a little bit, this is a whole document, several pages of a bunch of different careers and occupations that you can look through, look more in depth, search up if you don't know what they really mean. But what I'm going to ask you to do is once this session's over, just take a look through all of these. Pick out two occupations and careers that you would like to go more into. And then in the next session that we're just going to dive into that, go over everything the job entails, such as education you might need, the salaries, what to expect within the job, all of that. So, do you have any questions or any questions revolving any of your assessments that we talked about today? Anything at all?
I don't think I have any questions. Like, I'm pretty happy with the results, and next week I'll definitely come back with like two careers that I'm really interested in.
Perfect. That is great. Yes, make sure you do that and we'll talk about that, go into there and see where you fall best and see where you might fit best in choosing your career and hopefully not have that feeling of being stuck anymore.
That sounds great. All right, thank you so much for your help.
Great. It was good talking to you and I'll see you next week.
All right, see you then.
Bye. Hi, Taylor. Welcome back to our last session. How are you doing?
Hey, Stephanie, I'm pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing good as well. It's so good to see you again. So, at the end of our last session, we went over that last assessment that had all of the careers listed off based off of your other assessments, like the 16 personalities and the focus two. And I also asked you to look it over and pick out two fields that you might be most interested in. So, what are the two that you decided on?
I believe my top one was counseling psychologist, so I definitely kind of want to look into that. And then the other one was community outreach manager.
Okay,
So
great. Yeah, great. Those are both two perfect fields. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to share my screen and we're going to look at two websites that I will also send to you at the end of this session. So let me go ahead and share that. All right. Can you see my screen?
yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So this first one is called Career One Stop. It's just an exploration of all careers, any job or careers, jobs, trainings, anything that you would want to look into. So first, I'm going to go ahead in and I'm going to search up counseling psychologist, since that's the first sheet that you said and the one that you might be most interested in. So we're going to go to clinical and counseling psychologists. So basically a quick description of what they do is they assess, diagnose, and treat mental and emotional disorders of individuals through observation, interview, and psychological testing. They also help individuals with distress, maladjustment, to understand their problems through their knowledge of case history. They interview with patients, and then they also implement a theory within their counseling. Um, Also known as clinical and counseling psychologists, they could be called applied behavior scientist specialists, child psychologists, clinical psychologists, clinical therapists, a bunch of different names, but along the same job title. If we scroll down a little bit, we can look at the projected employment. So in Pennsylvania in 2018, it was roughly 6,000. In the United States as a whole, it was roughly 118, and that's in 2020. So the percent change went from 13% to 10% from 2018 to 2020, which is fine. That doesn't really mean much. But projected growth of employment in 2028 will be around 7,000, and then in 2030 it'll be around 131,000. So that's a huge jump within 2 years. The outlook, it says that it is likely that there's new jobs in the future, so that's good. We always like to see likely or most likely. If we scroll down a little bit, we can go look at the wages first. So the top 10% or just the 10% usually make around 47K a year. The median is around 73K, and the 90% can go up to 106K. And this is for clinical counseling and school psychologists in Pennsylvania. So, any education or experience that you may need it to get started, it says you need a doctoral or professional degree. There's no work experience, and then you will need an internship and residency. But once you go on to school for that, like for example, in your master's program, I know that you do internships and stuff like that, so that'll count towards this. So the typical education, like we said, masters that I just pointed out, where you'll get that internship experience. You need that, and most professionals in this field have a doctoral degree, and that's at 46%. So it seems best to go on for that doctoral degree if you feel you want to go more into this. And would that be something you're interested in doing, going all the way to doctoral level?
That's the thing. Since I'm like still halfway through like my undergrad right now, I definitely would be interested in like continuing my education. I just am like not entirely sure about jumping right into a doctorate. Maybe I'll like get a master's first and potentially work my way up to a doctorate. I'll just have to like probably look at some programs, honestly, if this is like something that I end up deciding on. Because yeah, I would definitely agree. It's like it's probably a doctorate degree that I would need. So
Yeah.
I guess it'll just be like kind of that decision if I want to do the master's or just jump straight into a doctoral program.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that you just have to take day by day, really finish up your undergrad and then decide where and when you want to go for your master's. And then once you're in your master's, you can even then decide. And of course, I'm always here, so you can make another appointment. And that's more stuff that we can talk about. But going down here, with the skills of a counseling psychologist, they prefer that people have social perceptiveness, are active listeners, good speaking, good critical thinkers, and are service oriented. Comparing them back to your results from the Focus 2 and 16 personalities, I can see some that kind of relate. Like, for example, social perceptiveness. I think that was one of your skills that came back in the top three within that assessment. And also active listening. I know listening was also one of your skills that you were good at. Would you agree that these are the skills that you can implement into the field?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like the social perceptiveness, especially like understanding and being able to like recognize others' reactions and emotions. And then the active listening too, like because I am like a more introverted person, I always like prefer to like sit back and listen to people talk rather than like do all the chatting. So I think those are two like those ones are pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think those are good skills that you have too that'll fit great.
Hmm.
So after looking at that, we are going to now go back and we're going to look at that second field that you pointed out, the community outreach manager.
Yeah.
And we're just, oops, hold on. We're just going to put PA. All right. So social and community service managers, it's essentially the same title. So we'll go ahead and look at that.
Yeah.
The description. So being in this field, you plan, direct, or coordinate the activities of a social service program or community outreach organization. So you oversee the program or organization's budget and policies regarding the participant involvement. You do program requirements and also the benefits that go along with it. So the work may involve directing social workers, counselors, or probation officers. Also known job titles: adoption service manager, child welfare service director, clinical services director. There's a bunch of different names that go along with those two within that field. So the outlook, this is really good. They are very likely in the future. It's expected to grow much faster than average. Like I said before, when we were looking at a counseling psychologist, it was likely. We love to see very likely and likely. It's a good expectation for the future of those jobs. Over here at the projected employment, comparing Pennsylvania to the United States, in 2018, there was around 9,000 employment, and in 2020, it went all the way up to 174. So again, that's a significant jump within just a 2-year difference, but also that's comparing United States and Pennsylvania alone. But still, that's a really big number, and that's good to have. Um, in PA, the annual projected job openings were 940, and altogether in the United States, it was around 18,000. So even if you don't want to stay in PA and thinking about going somewhere else, 18,000 jobs opening up within this field is really good. And even not close to 1,000 in Pennsylvania, that's great annually. Scrolling down, we're going to look at the typical wages for this now. So the typical wages or the annual wages for a service or a social and community service manager, 10% usually makes around 40,000. The median is around 63,000, which is good. And then the top 90% makes around 100,000. So you can go all the way up to that or even past that or past that wage as well. Search for education. So you would need at least a bachelor's degree. You need less than 5 years work experience, and there's no on-the-job training. So to get that 5 years working experience, that's just something that you would have to go out, look into different services that would provide for you to go in and get that experience. Stuff that we can also look up to together if you decide that this is the field that you want to continue on after your bachelor's level. Down at the education. So it seems like just having a bachelor's degree in this field is the most prominent. It's at 39%. A lot of people also have a master's degree, around 29% have that within this field. And only about 5% have a doctoral level. So that's not necessary to get that. Of course, if it's something you want to go on to do, you can absolutely do that and still be able to work in this field. But usually it's just around the bachelor's level that people contain once starting within this field. So we're going to go look down at their skills again and compare those. Again, social perceptiveness is one of the first one that comes up that we just talked about that you already have. Active learning, time management, monitoring, management of personal resources. So these skills, of course, seem more along the lines of a management job, with the coordinations and then the decision making of what to do. With these skills, some popped up on here that didn't come up within your assessments. Do you see anything on here, like such as monitoring, that you think that you would be good at that didn't first come up within the last session?
Um, Anything I would be good at or not good at?
Like good at, think these skills that you would be good at within the field.
Um, Definitely like the top three.
Mhm.
I'm not really that good with time management. And monitoring. I've never really like had like that leadership position before. I really can't like speak on if I can keep track of other people well.
Right.
Um, Coordination, like management of personnel resources, like that's just not really like something I've ever like worked with before, so I can't really say, but definitely like at the bottom, like active listening and judgment and decision making are like I feel like I'm like good with those. I
Yeah,
can relate to
that's
those.
great. And even the skills that you said that like you've never touched on before or anything, those are skills that you can absolutely build too within the field. Like you don't even have to go in knowing what monitoring really is. Like once you sit down and once you start learning and experiencing everything around you, it'll come to you. Of course, it's stuff you need to learn, but if it's truly one of your skills, I'm sure that you'll exceed in those. So after down here at the bottom, just some related occupations to this field. We have a human resources manager, medical and health service manager, all within manager titles. So they would all basically ask for the same skills, not to a T, but to have that social perceptiveness, to have that time management and that active learning and listening. So that's all good stuff to look at. Okay, so since we talked a little bit about at the beginning, you said that you were more maybe leaning more towards counseling psychology. Do you still feel
Mhm.
that way after looking at all of those details about those different fields?
Yeah, I still feel that way. I still am feeling like a manager position is just not like fulfilling really. So I wouldn't mind looking further into the counseling psychologist.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So over here, we're going to go to this next website. It's called the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. And then I'm going to go ahead and search counseling psychologist. Okay. So this is actually grouping clinical counseling and school psychologists all together. Um, whenever you decide to go into, if you decide to go into your master's program for the counseling field, you can decide if you want to go either clinical or school counseling. There are two different programs for that, but a lot they have a lot of the same gen eds and stuff like that. So it's just good to see where it is combined as a whole in case you do decide to go on further for that. So scrolling down a little bit, the employment is around 111,000. The mean hourly wage is around $42, and then that would equal out to around 89,000 a year. Um, Scrolling down a little bit more, we can look at this graph here. And this is employment of counseling, either clinical or school psychologists. And this goes by state. And this was in the year of 2020. So we can see down here, the top three were California, New York, and Texas for these fields. And then if we just keep going a little bit, we can also see the different states. So for example, let me try to find. Okay, it's not down there anyway, but we can go ahead and go on. Hold on one sec. Okay, sorry about that, just some difficulties. So after looking all of that, I would say that wraps us up on looking at all the details about those fields and jobs that you were interested in. I hope you found everything to be beneficial and you took away some good aspects of all the good stuff that we learned. Do you have any takeaways from anything that we've talked about over the past 3 sessions?
Well, I definitely learned like a lot more about myself for careers that work best for me. They kind of like already fit into like my idea of what I was wanting. So like that was cool to kind of see it actually like physically like in an assessment like telling me which careers would be best. So that was pretty cool. I basically just learned that like I think my hunch is right that I need to make the switch to psychology. So I'm probably gonna do that very soon, shortly after meeting with you. But it was definitely eye opening.
Well, that's great to hear. We love hearing that. And just from meeting with you these past few times, I would also agree that maybe you are thinking of moving more towards that psychology. So if that's something you truly want to do and you think that's best for you, I think it's a great move and it's going to be very beneficial for your career. So, with that being said, reach out if you have anything going on, if you're going through any changes within your field, if you want to look into the next steps after graduating your undergrad, literally anything. We're always here and we're always open to help. So, with that being said, I hope you have such a great day. And like I said, reach back out if you need absolutely any help at all.
Thank you so much for all your help. And I'll reach out if I need the help too.
Absolutely. It was so nice meeting you.
You too.
Bye, Taylor.
All right. Bye bye.